Hi, thank you so much for asking this question. So, Mrs. Dalloway is a great book, and the question of to what extent are Clarissa Dalloway and Septimus Warren Smith doubles is a great question, but it's a little bit confusing without some context. So, let's break it down a little bit. So, first we have our definition of a double. When you look up the definition of a double on any basic site nowadays, you'll basically get a definition that has something to do with two or more characters paralleling each other in terms of experiences and personality. So a lot of the times, one person experienced one event and the other person experienced a very similar event. But in Gothic tradition, what is also usually the case is the doubles kind of represent two sides of a person. So I always think of doubles as a sort of Jekyll and Hyde situation where you have one aspect of a personality in one person and another aspect of a personality in another person. So this modification is a little bit relevant, I think, to the explanation of your question. Because Virginia Woolf, the author of Mrs. Dalloway, was a strong believer in the androgynous mind. So what is the androgynous mind? This was talked about in Virginia Woolf's book, or which was adapted from a speech, I believe, called A Room of One's Own. And it basically reflected her beliefs as a second wave feminist that no one is naturally, that is not, I can't spell today, a man or a woman. But rather conditioned into either category. So basically, you're born as a baby, and somebody looks at you and is like, okay, you're going to be a woman. And then you're treated as if you're going to be a woman, and your perception of society is altered in that way because of the different ways that people socialize as men and people socialize as women interact with the world. Now, in Woolf's beliefs, this is incredibly stifling. And I think that thinking about sexism now and in the past is one way of looking at it. If you can't even buy a piece of property without your husband's permission, obviously that's going to limit your mobility a little bit. So Woolf believed that if you were truly to have a great creative mind, you needed to let go of your ideas about your role as a man or woman. You needed to use both feminine and masculine ways of thinking, if that makes any sense. So consider Clarissa's frustration with the fact that she is an upper middle class white woman and she can't necessarily do the things her husband does. She can't pursue the relationship she wants to pursue. And she perpetuates this as well. Remember, she's so disgusted with her daughter's relationship with Doris Kilman. But on the other hand, she looks back and she's very frustrated with the fact that her Aunt Helena did not like the fact that she was hanging out with Sally Seton, whom she loved. So it's just a very stifling category. And then this is sort of mirrored in a way by Septimus Warren Smith. Now, the two of them do not know each other. They are very much divided and are both feeling a sense of loss because of this division. Now, Septimus Warren Smith is shell-shocked from the war. So he's increasingly having these kind of like flashbacks. But flashbacks aren't necessarily what we think of in cinema. So it's not just like he's back in the war zone. It's just that everything around him is so much. And I think he also feels stifled by being an ex-soldier and by being a man. He talks a little bit about his relationship with a commanding officer, Evans, who they say something like he realizes his manliness with. He is not allowed to explore that part of himself now that he's back in the real world. So you've got two people that are very frustrated with their positions in society. And it's unbearable. Now, the way that the two differ eventually is that Clarissa decides to go on and try to be a good hostess, and Septimus Warren Smith decides he can't take it anymore. So neither one of them really truly gets what they want in the end. I hope this helped.